didn't hear much as to plain old ideology is contributing here, because now
it's plain old what?
Ideology, I believe, because you know, as Haynes famously said, people are slaves of the form theorists and so on. And to the extent to which inequality has been, I believe, legitimized to some extent, where does that fit in? I mean, again, this may only be something that's just a byproduct of what you're describing, but I think it's really driven a lot of what we're observing. Whereas, you know, it's a well-known fact that the CEO did not necessarily take the highest salary possible. They held them back for social convention. So does that come into analysis?
I think it certainly does with respect to CEOs and a whole series of measures which made it much more attractive in the 1980s, 90s for CEOs to reward themselves with stock packages, for example. But also to dip into the corporate cash flow. Now, once we reduced, and I don't know the extent to which the lobbies knew this, but it was not part of the discussion around the Tax Reform Act that I recall. Once we reduced the top rates in an effort to provide a more even and sensible tax code at the top, we basically said, you know, okay, this is a good thing for you if you're Bill Bradley or Jack Kemp and you have, you know, a celebrity's income, right? But if you're a CEO and you basically have a call on a corporate cash flow, it gave an enormous incentive to move that from the company to your own bank account. Right? And that, I think, contributed to it enormously. Also, the whole, you know, the whole business school shareholder value maximization cult, I think, contributed to that. And you've got a kind of a pathology of a culture of corporate executives. But it's important to remember this is a very small number of people. Another Galbraith theorem, which is that the total number of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies at any given time is 500. And in terms of the runaway incomes, it's a subset of those. So I think one has to be a little bit cautious. A lot of the players here, the hedge fundies and the financial players, are not showing up in that particular universe. In terms of the ideology, to come back to the part of your question about the answer, I mean, I think this is all of our lives. Lived through the rise of a kind of Ayn Rand legitimation of a kind of thinking which 50 years ago was recognized as correct, and become kind of accepted as a legitimate form of social thought. What in a chapter of the manuscript I'm working on called the new Crackpottery, and that's something which all of us have a certain responsibility for, in some sense, not resisting strongly.